Well, hello there, and welcome back to our podcast, Is This Art? I'm Catherine, and I'm joined here by Jed. Hi, Jed.
How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
I'm doing great. This is going to be an exciting.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited for today's episode because we're critiquing or we're reflecting on the Super Bowl ads that just were this past Sunday, right?
Did you watch the big game?
Okay, I did. I absolutely did. I may have fallen asleep for a brief power nap at one point, but then woke back up for the halftime performance and the end of the game. So it was great.
So did you get to see any of the commercials?
Yep, saw all the commercials. And it was interesting because actually while watching them, my first initial reaction when I was kind of in the zone for the game was different from when I watched them later on YouTube. I kind of had just like a different headspace, so it was kind of interesting to see that transition. But yeah, did you have a favorite at all? I don't.
I was about to ask you that same question, so I'm gonna
All
ask
right,
you
all
to
right.
go first.
So I think that out of all of them, the one that stood out to me the most, both like on for the game itself and after the game, was Farmer's Dog. And so this was a debut, like the company debuted. This was their first time they're doing a Super Bowl ad. And it was essentially this like story of this woman's relationship with her dog throughout the entirety of her life. And it was kind of a slower pace, snapshots of life from when she was a kid to just going to the beach to getting married, moving in, having her first kid. It was really sentimental, and it captured a lot of the moments I imagine the audience is sitting there being like, oh, I love my dog. Or you're thinking about you want a dog, like stuff, that it kind of tunes into that aspect. So that was definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I think it got a lot of responses. I know there's a lot of Super Bowl ads that do really well with like dogs or pets or things like that.
Yeah, what is it about just dogs?
I don't know. I'm a pet person. I like dogs and cats. So, not when they're together because then they fight like
That's true.
something.
That's true. But like even if you think back to there's the farmer's dog, there's the other big dog one,
Amazon one, yeah.
Amazon one, and then there's also the classic, more like wasn't it Budweiser who did the horse and the dog? Like it's just a reoccurring trend of ads that do really well at the Super Bowl.
So I think the thing that ad does really well is that it connects with this audience in a. It's not just that's a cute dog, right? It's that it it deals with moments that either people have had or are wanting to have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a level of universality to it in that even if you aren't like a dog or cat person, you could understand the concept of like time passes on, right? And
Yeah.
there's just a natural feeling to want to be part of something bigger than yourself and to grow and to have continuity to your life, even though we all know that everything is a chapter. So it's kind of a very big or broad topic and kind of a serious topic, but I think really what it does is it taps into this idea of connecting emotionally with an audience. It doesn't have to be people who are pet owners, right? There's just this idea that again, that we all have similar experiences no matter where we are in the world, because people who watch the big game aren't just in the United States, or aren't just dog owners, and aren't people who are look and sound and feel like those people on the commercial. But I think that's the thing that I would take from it, is that if you're going to do any kind of I don't know, piece of art that you want to reach, whether it's a commercial or painting or anything, you want to try to find some universality to it, so that it's not just about the thing. There's some subtext to it.
Yeah.
And when you have like strong subtext, people don't necessarily need to fully resonate with the particular topic. They just will find their bits and pieces within the story that they resonate with, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the other thing that occurs to me is not just that on a very sort of logistical standpoint, that commercial is pretty simple, right? You could reenact that with your family like on a weekend. And there are other commercials that have like a cast of thousands, or like famous people, or special effects, like the Adam Driver one. But I think that we were having a chat earlier with folks from the Video Garage, and they had mentioned that that they're having the Super Bowl where you have all your resources, all your energy, all your money, all your not all of them, but like a vast majority of your money, resources, energy on this ad.
Mm-hmm.
It allows you to the agency and the ability to be more creative and to be more open. And so like, it's like this. It's like if you have one shot, one opportunity, like 8 Mile. It's like the 8 Mile of ads. So I guess I would just throw it to you is that like on one hand, I think that that particular ad logistically is pretty simple, but incredibly effective as we saw. And I guess I would just ask you, do you have any thoughts on this idea that when you do kind of have a big goal to reach for, and you have
Mm.
like a groundswell of support or interest, or like the stakes are pretty high for Super Bowl commercials. So with those stakes come the opportunity to really do something special, to do something creative, and to do something that maybe pushes the boundaries a bit more. I'm just wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, Super Bowl ads, the spot itself for 30 seconds is $7 million. So that's separate from any creative, that is separate from actually hiring crew and post-production and everything that goes into it in terms of like people hours. So these are like big stakes ads.
Yeah.
And the nice part, but like to have in the case of the farmer's dog, this ad that like has this slower pace, it sits in the intimate moments of life, and you get to be really creative about which Snapchats in the longer version of it. It's like the 1 minute 30 second one, and like the end, they do this POV from the dog of all these different life moments, but it's as if like it's the dog's eyes that are seeing it. So they have like they use a different lens.
Little fisheye.
Little fisheye lens, and so you get to have that creativity when you and it doesn't have to just be huge Super Bowl ads. You can take that same like energy and kind of lens of viewing different snapshots of life and apply it to any of your projects, really. And I think the farmer's dog one did it really well.
Yeah, I think that, the broader question is like, well, why don't you have that Super Bowl like expectation at everything that you do? And part of it is there's like, you can't keep up, pedal to the metal all year, all time, you want to have like you want to have a goal that you can aim for, and not just, a way of being, but really maybe a way of being is the thing. But I guess what I'm thinking about is like, yeah, well, just basically why do we think that um like why don't we have that Super Bowl mentality or that big game mentality with every commercial
With
we do,
everything that we do.
everything that we
Yeah,
do?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And I think we do like to bring that same energy into everything that we do. You want to bring your best self, and you want to bring your best ideas and to
yeah.
our
And
videos.
I do think that there's I mean, not to to wax our own car here, but like I think we do have around here, around these parts, we definitely try to always be improving, like always getting a little bit better. For me, like it's a dream job to be doing video production, and to talk about video production, and to work with the people at the Video Garage. And if you have your dream job, then it's not like, oh, if you love your work, then you never work a day in your life, whatever it is, which is, that's, if you have that opinion, that's fine. But I guess sometimes work is hard. But my point is that like when you care about something, like how a commercial plays, every single element of an ad or a video or anything that you're doing, if you understand that each piece matters, then you matter. They're the thing that you're doing
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And actually one thing, I we're talking about, you matter, seeing people putting them on camera. The one that really comes to mind, one of my favorites, was the Run With It ad, which I would love to segue to if that's okay.
Segue.
Segue. All right, so the Run With It ad was starring the captain of the Mexican flag football team, Diana Flores, and essentially started as like broadcast style, having an interview with Erin Andrews, who was like wearing the same outfit that she wore for the actual Super Bowl. And then it cuts away and it turns into this epic chase scene with Billie Jean King. We had Jalen Ramsey, Mr. Beast, like a huge kind of lineup of people. And my personal favorite, we top it off with her going toe to toe with her mom, the mom's betrayal. But I loved this ad because it was a chance to have a little bit of representation. We saw like the three women running at the end for the three quarterbacks, and I was kind of like, oh, this is great, because I think it was 47% of fans of the NFL are women, and so to be able to see yourself on these ads and to kind of see it in this like choreographed, it wasn't like fight choreography, but it definitely was like,
Oh yeah.
she was breaking down doors, she was falling on tables. Like, it was just a lot of fun. It was a lot of movement, a lot of energy, and that was definitely one of my favorite ads of the Super Bowl.
That particular ad had a lot of kind of key ingredients that I think we try to imbue into the stuff that we do here at the Video Garage. And I would suggest that anybody who's interested in um, working on art or content that engages folks is, number one, it deals with something that's emotionally engaging. Seeing what ostensibly is an underdog, right, fighting against all these people who are, famous, and there's more of them, and then there's her, and even her mother comes at her. So that's like something we can all. That's a universality there that we can
We love
see.
an underdog story.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. But then what's cool about it is that fundamentally she's not an underdog. Like, it's just that it's, she's faster and quicker, and she proves herself. The everyone tries to get her, they can't get her. So, like, to me, like, that's the thing, is that it's empowering, number one. So there's some emotional resonance there. Number two, it has an energy, like you said, which I think is a kind of a, esoteric thing, or something. It's not like you can put your finger on exactly, but you know it
Mm.
when you see it. And the other piece that you mentioned this earlier, so I don't want to steal your thunder, but the thing that you mentioned was the amount of planning that it takes to kind of choreograph all that.
Oh my gosh,
Right.
yeah.
So there's from a perspective of, like, it looks chaotic, but all of that chaos is controlled chaos that's planned and organized, and that, again, we talk about this all the time, was whatever you see on screen definitely started with, I'm sure, a lot of pre-production planning.
Yeah, so but prior to this podcast, I was kind of looking through reading about the production that went into the different ads. And so the director of the Run With It ad for the NFL said that it was one of the hardest videos that, or like ads that he's directed, and that in pre-production they had extensive storyboards that went into this. It's 30 seconds, or was it a minute, either way. And every single piece was very carefully crafted, and yes, there's a lot of star power in it. It also works without the star power, rushing through the halls. I mean, all of that was done through careful planning. And it tells a story, her journey of, like, we're going, okay, this kind of crazy fantastical of she's running through all these different venues, to at the end, she's just running down the street. Kind of gives that same air of like the Nike ad, just do it. The one they're running, like, I don't know why it is, people running down the street, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm behind this.
Yeah, and there is just kind of a thing of just, when you see, like energy attracts like energy. So,
Hmm.
it's like hard. Like, you've ever tried counting slowly while you're running fast? It's really hard. Or when I
I'm
ran,
gonna try this now.
it's
I've
hard.
never
Like,
tried.
or just like when you run a half marathon. When I went faster than I did, not because I was, part of it was because I was amped up on my first try, but there's this. That's why I feel there's, like, hope for humanity. It was just like there's like hundreds of people running, and, like, you can get swept up in that in a really great way. And I think that that's like a X factor, you might want to call it.
Mm.
But it's very specific in a very real way. It's not just an X factor. It's like they created kinetic energy through planning with a purpose. They weren't just getting a camera and figuring out what happened, which I think a lot of people think is how you do it.
Yeah, no, and it's also, I think it's interesting just to kind of take a much further step back of every time that we see running used as a visual in any sort of video medium. I mean, sometimes it's used as like an energy, sometimes you have like these beautiful landscapes and someone running across it. Like, it's definitely especially with anything sports related, it really, where am I trying to go with this
Yeah,
here?
for me, from my perspective, the things that I liked most about what that ad was, and what it represented, was, one, it was smack dab in the middle of a very male dominated visual of, men playing football, and then there is a woman who is, for lack of a better phrase, like, badass,
Yeah, she
right,
kicked ass. She
right,
was
like,
so
the entire
cool.
time, like, no one could stop her. So, like, there's, like, that feeling of, like, you just have a general sense of, like, you want to root for someone who has people, maybe,
You want to root for your
yeah,
underdog.
root for underdog. And then also just this idea that, like, to break that idea that why do we think she's an underdog? Like, I didn't think that. I kind of saw what it was, that she was like, all right, she's gonna kick some ass. I was looking forward to seeing that. But, like, playing with those themes. Number one is that that's like a relevant topic that creates an emotional response and an emotional connection, an emotional resonance to the audience, regardless of, like, what happens next. It's just this idea that you're connected to this person's fate in the commercial.
Hmm.
Second piece, I think,
Like,
is
you really hope someone doesn't get that flag,
right, exactly, because
because you're gonna be real
yeah,
bummed.
you're attached to it, because
Because
you're putting in time and energies. Two is again, the amount of pre-production planning that was required for that was really impressive. I mean, there's always pre-production on commercials and stuff like that, and planning and tactical kind
I
of.
mean, I can just imagine the scheduling logistics alone with that one. It was like, well, maybe, yeah, still probably still a lot.
Exactly. And the other piece that I think that it did really well was, from a storytelling standpoint, you wanted to see what happened next.
Like where's she gonna go? How is
Right.
she going to evade,
Yeah.
all of this?
Or
What rooftops is she
yeah,
going
and
from?
who and that's the
And
thing.
who, yeah, who's gonna be the person in her
Yeah,
path?
exactly. Yeah, and so the bottom line is that it achieved a bunch of things that I really care about. One is creating emotional resonance with an audience. Two is being very mindful of everything that's in your control, whether it's like sound
Yeah.
or audio. I mean, sound or video. Like you want to make sure that you're using every opportunity you can to tell your story. And the last piece is that it does grab you in such a way that you want to see how it ends. And the 3B, the second piece of that last piece, is that you always want to show the audience something that they hadn't seen before or they didn't expect,
Mhm.
and that amps up the energy. And then has a payoff. Like that's a pretty good setup, like from something pretty small to something very big. So
I mean, the last piece I kind of want to end with that I like in the case of the Run With It ad is it started at the Super Bowl, this huge venue, and then she kind of ran through the backstage area a little bit. Then she was at kind of like a hotel venue. And then like she went home and she brought it back to like the community that she grew up in and she was running through those streets. I love that evolution of like the big scale to the behind the scenes to the maybe like the environment around it to then, you're going home. That's all this does is it's
yeah,
bringing the fun energy from the sport home.
you know what I really love about coming home?
Yeah. What?
QR codes.
Oh my god.
Can we talk QR codes?
That was probably the most abrupt segue. But yeah, no, Jed, let's talk about QR codes. I'm very intrigued about QR.
I
All right,
mean,
let's go.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm all about QR codes. So the thing that I want to talk about was that there were a couple of ads that I saw that utilized QR codes, and the reason why I found that interesting was that you know the end goal of any ad is to get someone to do something, to have to have a call to action that the audience resonates with, and then because they resonate with that call to action, then act on it and
Mm.
like do the thing that you're trying to get them to do, buy this or go there or absorb this message, whatever it may be. The thing that I found interesting was that the ads that utilize QR codes kind of cut to the chase, right? There's no pun intended talking about the previous one. Is it's just like we want you to, you know, interact with this QR code. And I guess the question I have for you is that one, do we feel that that's effective? Two, is it a trend? Is it a something that's going to go away? Is something that going to get more and more prevalent? And does it work?
So the one that comes to mind for me is kind of at the beginning part of the game. There was someone just had the QR code pretty much almost full screen. It was
Yeah.
for a game, and it just kind of held it there, and it had characters being animated around, and it was pretty much like you go up and you scan it, or there's really not a whole lot happening on the TV for that 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I It was effective in that like you were curious, but I don't know anyone who actually went up and scanned the QR code. I don't know about you.
I think that there's a thing that happens where if we see something that doesn't resonate with us, we think uh, it doesn't resonate with me, and it doesn't resonate with anyone that I know, so therefore it must not resonate with anyone.
Hmm.
And that's almost always not true. Like I don't. There's a case to be made that you can make that argument, but the bottom line is that to answer your question, didn't resonate with me, didn't resonate um,
Your nephew.
with my nephew. Thank
Yeah.
you. Didn't resonate with
I'm so sorry. I jumped.
no, I'm laughing that you know that didn't resonate with any older folks. But the lesson that I took from that ad was that um, while the goal is to kind of get the audience to do something, like the best way to get someone to do something is not to just tell them. Sometimes like you want to like engage them emotionally, right? Like I don't think that ad
Mhm.
really engaged them emotionally, but I do think that the lesson is that if you don't know what your call to action is, you don't know why you're making what you're making, whether it's art or an ad or a video for your website, like you really want to. I always talk about this. You want to know what your end goal is, and you want to not just say this is what we want you to do. Like you want to find a way to inspire them to do something by doing something creative and interesting that inspires them.
Yeah, I think my biggest piece with the QR code that was tough was just that I agree with you, there was no narrative that really built into it. It was just kind of up on the screen. I didn't know anyone from either my peers or like my cousins who are younger who engaged in it. And without kind of a narrative that pulls you in, like to cause you to go scan the QR code. I think it was just a miss.
Well,
Whenever I have thought to use QR codes for content that I've made, it is always like in addition to. So there's something that exists that can tell a story, that tells a narrative, that causes you to like kind of sit in it. And then it's kind of this moment of at the end, it's like, do you want to go do more? Here's
yeah,
the QR code. Let me send you on that path.
and I would say that again, that's actually a really great best practice, which is you should provide content or messaging or thoughts or fun or whatever it is, some sort of positive experience, and say if we earned your further interest, or if we earned your trust or earned your business, you can check out more at this QR code. But you
Mm-hmm.
have to kind of give them the opportunity to earn their trust. But I do say I'd be surprised. Like we might want to. I'd be interested to see how well that did, because it's possible that it actually did really good.
Maybe, yeah.
It just didn't resonate with us, right? Like, and
Yeah.
that's kind of the cool thing is that um, you want to try to find universality, or you want to find things that kind of extend beyond kind of the specific topic, but that are like things that everybody can resonate with. But I think part of that is really uh, understanding who your audience is and what they like. So for all I know, that actually I did really well. It didn't resonate with me. The thing that I was going to ask you about, or let's put it this way, is that the one that I thought was really interesting was well. Let me start with this. Like, let me start with this. There was this in the late '70s and early '80s. There was this famous comedian named Andy Kaufman, who was on a TV show called Taxi, and actually Jim Carrey did a movie called Man on the Moon about him. And what he wanted to do for his sitcom that he didn't really like, he was going to be able to do this like special, this like Andy Kaufman special. And one of the things that he couldn't get the network to let him do was to adjust the vertical hold of like the old school TV, so that the image would like go like this, and you like people, it would be on purpose. But
Mm-hmm.
people watching at home would think there's something wrong with the TV. They'd get up out of their couch, they'd walk over and tap it and try to fix their TV. And I had that same vibe with the. Do you know which ad I'm talking
Oh,
about?
I know exactly which ad you're talking about. You're talking about Tubi. Am I saying that right?
You are.
Okay, yeah.
I got on the Google machine.
You got on the Google, make sure that we're pronouncing it right.
Exactly.
Tubi, yeah. And I think out of all the ads, I think Farmer's Dog, Run With It, and Tubi were like the top three. And honestly, it wasn't necessarily the ad itself, but it was actually the reaction to the ad specifically on other social media platforms that it just absolutely exploded in terms of all of these reaction videos or people retelling the pure like panic of emotion of being like, someone changed the setting on the smart TV, turn it back, turn it back, turn it back. And I think it's just interesting because it's like, at what point does the content, I mean, we've talked about it before. You make content, you put it out in the world, people react to it. This was a direct, like, very intentional example of kind of like breaking this fourth wall with the viewer so that they have this immediate reaction and like sometimes even in some cases physically move around their room to try and grab the remote. There was a lot of people that were angered by it, but honestly, I think it was really successful because it got a lot of buzz, a lot of buzz, a lot of videos, a lot of reaction, people making their own content about the content. Like that's, I think, a peak. That is a, if you did that, that's a great, if you can get other people to post about it, you're in a pretty great spot.
Yeah, and I think it's more than just posting, though. I think that what's interesting about that one is that again, it elicited um, a reaction, right? That ad in particular really was memorable because it belied expectations. Like it wasn't. It was able to kind of get above the noise.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's something that it's tricky to do. Like you have to stay within certain norms so that people understand like what you're doing, but to really know when and how to surprise people and to show them something they haven't seen is really a key thing that I'm still, working on in my own artistic life. But I also, when you're talking, I really thought of this was like what I like that kind of experience is the best version of what the internet can be and what we try to make it, even though it's not always this case. It's not just that people are posting about it. What I love is that, again, we talk about this a lot, how you and I take turns kind of talking as opposed to having a conversation, which is different kind of how we are in our
Day to day, yeah.
our day-to-day non-podcast life. But what I like about it is that it's not just that people are posting about it. What they're doing is they're taking an initial idea and then they're um, adding their own verse to the song, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
the person reacts to that and does their version, and then another version. So there's it can be used for evil sometimes, but I think that what's interesting about that ad in particular and what you describe is that they weren't just posting about it, is that they were doing what what great artists do, is that whether it's something like the Beatles heard Pet Sounds from the Beach Boys and they're like, well, this is no, we have to do better. Like this album is so amazing, like we have to up our game and do something else. Or if somebody like a great artist from the Renaissance or even before, they saw the art that came before it and they're like, the gauntlet was thrown down, and I'm having flashbacks to what's that the great movie with Waiting for Guffman. Throw down the gauntlet, throw down, and when you can create an ad that's designed to ostensibly sell something that
Hmm.
engages people in a way that like continues your story on and on, like free advertising, that's like a wonderful thing if you're trying to improve your engagement and to get value bang for your $7 million per second buck. But what I will say is that just on its own, the idea of me not just saying like when we talk, it's not that we take turns talking a lot, but really what it is, we're like, oh, you reminded me of something, and I'm going to think of that, and that's what great
That's why
art.
the internet's great.
That's yeah, exactly. That's when it can be great. So I think that ad in particular was an opportunity for people to have an experience that they wouldn't normally expect.
Hmm.
That they remember it because of that, and then therefore, when shopping for that type of product, they'll remember that and think of it. And then just from like a again free advertising slash like interesting way to be creative is like people will ping pong back and forth their version or their addition to the verse of the creative song of like, oh, you did this kind of funny video about it, I'm going to do this funny video about it, and the third person reacts to them and does their own, and before you know it, a meme is born.
I have a question for you then, because I want to loop this back to the name of our podcast, which is this art? Because I remember there was one time I was sitting in a museum and we were sitting in front of art and we had people taking pictures of us in front of the art. And I turned and looked at my friend. And I was like, wait, did we become the art? Like, it's kind of this, when does the art grow past the person into more art? So in the case of the Tubi commercial, and the name of our podcast is this art, is the reactions of people and like kind of that spread of communication, is that art?
Well, my answer is very often yes, but I'll say yes in this case because I'll tell you is that for one is, well, let's start with this. It's just I think most Super Bowl ads are kind of impressive. They're impressive on a
They are impressive, yeah.
like just on what it takes to make them happen
Yeah.
under the stakes that are there, and the um just that like there's two. So when you watch a good movie and you're watching a movie that you really like, it's you feel that you may not recognize it entirely, but it's that whoever is directing this film is taking you on a journey that you trust. When you see it take a turn that you don't really like, you remember it's a movie, right? And so with these Super Bowl ads, like there's a feeling you get when you're watching a Super Bowl ad that like you're going to be taken care of, and when you're not taken care of, you get super disappointed, right? And when you are taken care of, you just know it's like in this like the pleasure center of your brain. You're like this is the way it's supposed to be.
Like with the farmer's dog ad, you're
Yes,
like, this is the way it's supposed to be. You love your dog
right,
loves you. You live a happy life.
right. And so it's like that that saying that like people may not remember everything that you say, but they remember how you feel. I think that's there's an art to that. There is an art to um, finding the little things in life that 100 million people all across the world will understand and feel and connect with. Like it's hard to get three people in a room to agree on anything, or to you said you don't like this and I don't know anybody like that, like, and you're pretty hip, so like no, not really, but no, but my point is that like it's hard to get anybody in a group of three people to agree on like what movie to go see, right?
Hmm.
But even if they're friends and they like the same stuff, but there's something about Super Bowl ads that do it right. They hit certain like pleasure centers. They hit certain resonances that make you feel that you're connected to something bigger than yourself, and that's the key to almost anything. It's like if you can make someone feel that they're connected to something bigger than themselves, and humans who are, it's not just them, on a dust ball spinning through Earth, or sorry, spinning around the universe, then you can usually connect with people in one way or the other. And so I guess I would say that there is definitely an art to making a good advertisement, visual or audio or otherwise. And the the Super Bowl ads are good for reasons, and it's hard to replicate those reasons, but we know it when we feel it. So I guess I would ask you, do you feel like when you see a Super Bowl ad that resonates with you, Does that feel special? Does it feel different? Does it feel like it's connected to you, or is it just sort of like something that you watch and you're like, okay, and then you see what what's next?
A bit of both. Some of them I do watch and I'm like, what's next? Like, that just didn't ring home. Or there's a million other things going on. You're at a party, you're eating food, you're paying attention to the game. Like, sometimes it is like, you're just like, what's next? But there's a couple of ads that have stuck with me. I think of the Volkswagen ad, Darth Vader, years ago, of the kid who went around trying to start the car, like the electric car, and then the dad turned it on with the remote keys. That ad has stuck with me for so many years. And then it came up in class in college too, and I was like, I love that one.
But that probably does that. I think it might. Does that? I think that works because it works on the CSS frosting level, but also on the like the
On
deeper
like
level.
the deeper level, the human level.
Yeah.
Like that was a feeling that I stuck with. And I even forgot what company it was for actually over the years. And then I went back and I looked it up and I was like, oh, it's Volkswagen. But yeah, it sticks with you. It's this community thing. So
I didn't know that, and I'd always do the
that's the, oh my God, the Emperor.
yeah for no yeah. So every once in a while when we're having a slow day, we'll have to energize each other.
But yeah, so I wanted to say, when you were kind of going through everything, I was like, ah, yes, ladies and gentlemen, Jed thoughts. I'm always so glad when we can share some Jed thoughts with listeners of our podcast.
But your Steve-Fi thoughts are just as valid and just as awesome.
Thanks. Captain's Corner over here.
How are we doing? How are we doing for time?
We definitely should wrap up. Okay. So I think that it was really great to be able to talk through everything. I love the point of kind of like, in the case specifically of the Tubi commercial, the question of, is this art, in terms of the reactions that you get? You just get this larger community feel that especially sticks with some Super Bowl ads, because so many resources are put into it, and it's such just a huge event across the country and across the world of people tuning in.
All right,
fantastic. I think that I loved talking about this. This was so much fun. So thanks so much for chatting. I'm looking forward to the ones next year too. But we're in future episodes going to talk about some of the trailers that were dropped as well, so people can get ready for that.
That is exciting. Woo.
Woo-hoo! All right, so I think with that, it concludes our podcast, and thanks for listening, everyone, and have a nice day.